At 5:04 minutes and 45 seconds a.m., two M30A2 guided rockets crossed the Ukrainian border, carrying an execution order. 75 seconds later, they turned a makeshift airfield in Belgorod into hell. 4 Russian helicopters, 2 K-52s and 2 Mi-8 MTVs, were incinerated in under 5 seconds. No sirens, no response, no chance of survival. This wasn't conventional artillery. It was a strategic preemptive strike, scouted, adjusted, and executed with surgical precision. A message made clear: nowhere is safe, not even inside Russian territory. At 4:59 minutes and 27 seconds a.m., July 5th, 2025. At a concealed location near the city of Okhturka, over 25 miles from the Russian border, a command post belonging to Ukraine's 27th Artillery Brigade received GPS coordinates from the reconnaissance UAV system operated by the Special Operations Forces. The data was confirmed. A temporary helicopter staging area in the rural western Belgorod region held at least 2 K-52s and 2 Mi-8 MTVs. Ukrainian intelligence reported that Russia was preparing a low-altitude airborne raid using Ka-52s for fire support and Mi-8s to insert special forces into the Sumy or Bohodukhiv areas, aiming to disrupt Ukrainian artillery command centers. A total of 4 helicopters were identified at the scene. 2 K-52 Alligators, Russia's main attack helicopters, armed with Vikhor-1 missiles and 30mm cannons, both of which had inflicted heavy losses on Ukraine in 2023. 2 Mi-8 MTVs, typically used to transport GRU special forces or airborne troops, often carrying loitering munitions or electronic warfare gear. All 4 aircraft were in the process of refueling and rearming, with no crews on board, the most vulnerable phase of their combat cycle. More importantly, there were no short-range air defense systems protecting the site. No combat units were observed guarding the perimeter. The target location was situated less than 20 miles from the Ukrainian border, well within rocket range. In light of this, the Ukrainian Forward Command issued a direct order: deploy the M142 HIMARS system, one of Ukraine's most mobile and accurate assets, paired with M30A2G MLRS rockets fitted with fragmentation warheads. At 5:40 minutes and 45 seconds a.m., at a concealed artillery position nestled between 2 low hills in the Okhturka region, approximately 26 miles from the Russian border, a HIMARS launcher designated Operation Eagle 24 was brought online. Its strike team configuration included 2 M142 HIMARS launchers mounted on 6x6 M1140 wheeled chassis camouflaged with thermographic mesh and terrain-blending netting, enough to deceive high-altitude thermal imaging and satellite surveillance. A 4-man fire crew, including 1 fire control officer, 1 navigation technician, and 2 artillerymen. All had locked into position and received real-time target coordinates from Special Operations Forces units operating near the Belgorod airstrip. The entire fire control system, including inertial guidance, fire control computer, and satellite uplink, was encrypted and linked to a live tactical UAV feed tracking the target. Maximum authorized response time, 15 minutes from target confirmation. This time, Ukraine needed only 5 minutes and 18 seconds. At 5:03 minutes and 38 seconds a.m., just over 4 minutes after the strike order was issued, the fire mission was fully programmed. A semi-automatic firing configuration was set, with a single officer in charge of triggering the launch. Combat parameters were entered. Firing azimuth, 36.5 degrees northeast. Launcher elevation, 54 degrees, optimized for quasi-ballistic trajectory. Weather, light easterly wind at 8.5 miles per hour. Ambient temperature, 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Visibility, 8 miles. The rockets fired in this strike were M30A2 guided multiple launch rocket system, among the most precise guided artillery munitions ever deployed in combat. An upgraded version of the M30A1, the M30A2 uses an alternative warhead containing over 182,000 tungsten pyramid-shaped fragments engineered to neutralize exposed or lightly camouflaged targets over a wide area. Instead of penetrating bunkers, the warhead creates a spherical kill zone with a radius over 330 feet, capable of vaporizing any vehicle or personnel within its blast footprint. At 5:04 minutes and 45 seconds a.m., the fire control officer pressed the digital trigger. 2 M30A2 rockets were launched 1.6 seconds apart, following a 20-degree offset pincer trajectory, approaching the target simultaneously from the west-northwest and south-southwest to overload radar response and maximize kill zone overlap. Within the first 2.7 seconds, the rockets accelerated to nearly Mach 3 before leveling off at Mach 2.2 in a semi-ballistic flight path. To avoid detection by Russian low-altitude radars like the Podlet K1 or Nebo-M, the HIMARS system fired from low elevation, with the rockets flying through turbulent atmospheric layers, where moisture, temperature, and forest canopy reflections create a radar masking phenomenon known as ground clutter camouflage. Both M30A2s remained invisible in this radar blind zone for 90 seconds, rendering them untrackable by Russia's surveillance network. Just over a minute later, the rockets crossed into Russian airspace over Belgorod Oblast, distance to target 11 miles. Velocity, approximately about Mach 2.4 at low altitude. Time to impact, approximately 36 seconds. The inertial navigation system was constantly updated by a Leleka 100 tactical UAV flying at over 6,600 feet south of the target zone, fine-tuning the strike error margin to under 8 feet. That was enough to turn the entire helicopter staging area into ground zero. At 5 minutes and 52 seconds a.m. At 7,500 feet from the target, both rockets switched to terminal attack mode, adjusting their dive angle to 38 degrees, maintaining velocity above 1,800 miles per hour, still Mach 2.4 at low altitude. A single rocket would have been sufficient to obliterate the temporary landing zone, but Ukraine chose a twin strike protocol to guarantee all 4 helicopters would be completely destroyed beyond recovery. This wasn't just a destruction strike. It was a preemptive strategic blow aimed at crippling Russia's ability to establish an airborne breakthrough corridor from Belgorod into the Sumy-Kharkiv axis. At 5:06 minutes and 0 second a.m., the first rocket, M30A2-01, approached from the south-southwest, targeting the center gap between 2 Ka-52s, each valued at over $16 million. The warhead carried 180,000 tungsten fragments dispersed by a directional fuse, creating a mushroom-shaped kill cone with a 230-foot radius, capable of destroying any object in its blast field with overpressure and shrapnel shock. A massive explosion followed instantly. The instantaneous overpressure at ground zero exceeded 50 psi, more than enough to rip apart the fuselage of K-52 number 1, sending its main rotor flying over 130 feet away. K-52 number 2, hit by the side blast, was flipped and had its tail boom sheared off. Its engine caught fire within 12 seconds. At 5:06 minutes and 2 seconds a.m., just 2 seconds after the K-52s were destroyed, M30A2-02 approached the northern edge of the airfield, where 2 Mi-8 MTVs were parked less than 40 feet apart. This rocket did not hit the ground. It was programmed to detonate at 30 feet above surface, an airburst configuration. From the airborne detonation point, a reversed conical shockwave erupted downward, striking the nose section of Mi-8 number 1, which had its side door open for mounting an S-8 rocket pod. The blast resulted in instant buckling of the forward fuselage, visibly deforming the structural frame. The instant overpressure exceeded 50 psi, causing the aircraft to rupture into dozens of flaming debris shards, scattered outward in chaotic radial trajectories. Within 0.8 seconds, Mi-8 No. 2 caught fire from incoming shrapnel. A secondary explosion followed, nearly 3 times larger than the first. A fireball nearly 70 feet in diameter erupted. The cockpit door was blown off the fuselage, landing almost 200 feet away. The main rotor, weighing close to 660 pounds, was torn from the shaft and dropped straight through the tin roof of a nearby maintenance hangar, collapsing parts of the structure. The entire parking area, over 260 feet long, was now nothing but a field of flames and charred metal wreckage. Inside a makeshift Ukrainian command shelter 20 miles away, a special operations unit monitored the entire strike via infrared cameras and short-range satellite links. White-hot blobs expanded across the screen, quickly turning orange, indicating ground temperatures exceeding 1,470 degrees Fahrenheit at the detonation center. At 5:06 minutes and 35 seconds a.m. Just 31 seconds after the final blast, Russian ground radar near Belgorod detected abnormal electromagnetic disturbance, but it was already too late. By the time the system picked up a sudden high-pressure zone, all 4 helicopters had been incinerated, and the Ukrainian HIMARS unit had already withdrawn from its launch site. At 5:06 minutes and 40 seconds a.m., UAV imagery confirmed rotor fragments, landing gear, and steel underbelly panels were scattered across a radius over 330 feet. A piece of a K-52's tail fin was embedded in a spare fuel drum, still smoldering over 40 minutes later. At 05:06:45 a.m., from a coordination post near Bilopilya, a steady voice came through the encrypted channel. "Target group neutralized. Heat signature dropped. Area saturated." 5 minutes after the strike, a Russian fire and reconnaissance unit was dispatched from a rear garrison 3 miles away. But upon arrival, they found only scorched metal and a 660-foot smoke column still rising. There were no survivors to rescue, no aircraft left to recover. At 5:30 a.m., the Russian Operational Command in Belgorod ordered a temporary freeze on all forward helicopter operations, including air support missions for Sumy and Kharkiv, which had been in final preparation for a counteroffensive. For the first 3 hours, Russia's Ministry of Defense made no official statement. Military news channels offered only a vague line. An unidentified explosion occurred near a northern rear logistics area. At 12 p.m. noon, commercial reconnaissance satellites began releasing infrared imagery of the scene, clearly showing thermal patterns consistent with a precision-guided rocket strike. A fan-shaped fragmentation pattern, characteristic of an M-30A2 guided multiple-launch rocket system warhead. Shortly afterward, Russian authorities officially acknowledged minor material damage at a temporary airfield. No mention of casualties, no admission of aircraft losses. But independent imagery analysis quickly exposed the full scale of the destruction. 4 airframes completely burned, including 2 Ka-52 attack helicopters and 2 Mi-8 MTVs, core platforms for Russian airborne raids, recon missions, and ground fire support in the Kharkiv-Sumy axis. The airbase hit, Belgorod Field Base, was one of 3 key Russian forward deployment hubs in the east. Its destruction, along with attached fuel and ordnance stocks, led to a 10 to 12-day disruption in Russia's low-altitude air support operations, a tactical gap in the Belgorod-Sumy defensive corridor, a forced delay in Russia's planned territorial expansion northwest of Kharkiv. Tactical evaluation. This was a textbook modern precision strike. The M142 HIMARS, originally designed for artillery support, had proven its ability to destroy high-value rear area targets with extreme accuracy, rapid deployment, minimal cost. With a strike package worth less than $10 million, Ukraine eliminated over $50 million in Russian combat hardware. Inside what Moscow had considered a secure rear zone, this was one of Ukraine's most successful tactical strikes of 2025, a dual-purpose hit that neutralized both assault forces and logistics infrastructure, crippling Russia's flexible airborne operations before they even began. With a single HIMARS battery, Ukraine had blocked a potential low-altitude counteroffensive, something even layered air defenses might not have caught in time. Russian response. In the aftermath, Russia's Ministry of Defense ordered the relocation of bomb and fuel stockpiles away from vehicle staging zones, the expansion of radio-electronic warfare systems, and ultra-low-altitude radar at temporary air bases. The deployment of Pantsir S-1 air defense systems to forward bases, something never done before. This was more than just a strike. It was a statement, a new truth in 21st century long-range warfare. Just a few minutes, a few guided rockets, and a compact HIMARS team can rewrite the battle lines hundreds of kilometers behind enemy lines.